Guys, this is Tara with Kittens, Weights, and Tarot, and today I want to do a little bit of a storytelling session. On Saturday, this past Saturday, the 20th, I went ghost hunting with the San Diego Paranormal Eye, and they hold like little ghost hunting groups once a month, usually around town here in San Diego. Sometimes they hold VIP events, which are a little bit more expensive because the venues that they're going to are a lot more expensive to go to, such as like the Star of India, or to go to the Whaley House, or other places here in San Diego. They do take trips out of state and sometimes out of country, which is really cool. And they're just collecting data and evidence through the tools and the instruments that they have to basically prove existence of life after death. The San Diego Paranormal Eye holds these ghost hunting events that are open to people that are not, I guess, not the, ghost hunters like themselves, so that they use that money in order to pay for equipment, upgrades on equipment, and pay for what they do. Because when they do their research and they go to conduct an investigation somewhere, they cannot charge money. So if you needed to have an investigation of your home, they can't charge you money. And they said in any organization that does is probably not a legit organization, because they're all like, all of this is just research, like any, let's say, college student or professor gathering research for a book or a paper. They're gathering research for, proving life after death. And so they don't charge money to do that. So the way that they get their money so that they can get their equipment and they can do what they need to do so they can get their plane tickets and go where they need to go, is that they hold these little ghost hunting meetups. So they're really wonderful people. The lead investigators, they're, they come from all walks of life. It's not their main job. They all have their careers, so they get together several times a week to conduct their investigations, like outside of their jobs, and to gather the research, look through hours and hours of footage, listen to hours and hours of audio, and it's really not as glamorous as it sounds to be a ghost hunter. So usually when we watch TV shows like Ghost Adventures and the like, it's basically hours and hours of footage and audio off of all the different devices, replaying things over and over again so that they can catch the few things that they did, so they can cram those few things into like a 30-minute show or an hour-long show, and it makes it seem like they were just like getting hit after hit after hit of like EVPs and like apparitions and REM pods going off, when really it's just being very patient, and every now and then you get a little something here and a little something here. And if you happen to gather a few pieces of evidence during an investigation, then it's considered quite an active spot. But it's not like ghosts are just like popping out of the ground and you're just like, and like stuff is moving in front of you and like lights are flashing and paintings are spinning. Like, it's not like that. So anyway, I just want to give you my little experience. I've gone with them quite a few times, but since I'm very busy, doing my career and all my side businesses and running Kittens, Weights, and Tarot and making videos for you guys, that I haven't had a lot of time to hang out with my ghost hunting peeps. But I was really excited to go on Saturday with them because they went to Dearborn Cemetery in Poway. It's called Dearborn Cemetery because one of the residents that's buried there is Mr. Dearborn. Mr. Dearborn was a very prominent person in Poway and in San Diego, so you can always look up Dearborn Cemetery and gather more information about that. So let me just tell you my experience. If you're in the San Diego area and you would like to meet up with the San Diego Paranormal Eye, you can find them in the Meetups app, meetup.com, and just look up under San Diego Paranormal Eye. They also have a Facebook group and they have a website, so San Diego Paranormal Eye. Okay, so we all met up at Dearborn Cemetery in Poway. Their investigations, like I said, are once a month on a Saturday from 8 to 11 p.m. at night, when they feel like the energy of the day is usually starting to simmer down, and that allows us investigators and amateur investigators to be able to hear the other world, the other dimensions, when everything in our life and in this dimension has had a chance to simmer down. So we all met up around 7:30, 8 o'clock. We decided to, the lead investigators were talking about just introducing themselves to new people, because there's always new people in the group, and talking about some of their favorite experiences. And then they do a circle of protection, so we all protect ourselves so that nothing follows us home. And then we split off into two groups. So one group goes with a couple of lead investigators, and another group goes with a couple of other lead investigators. They have all different types of equipment that we are allowed to use, and we pay $20 to go on this investigation. However, if you pay in advance through PayPal, it's $15. That's what I did. And so they have REM pods. What REM pods are is, it looks like this little box, I guess, and it has like a little antenna sticking up out of it, and anything that comes near it, like let's say if I put my hand near it, it goes off. So if it's all by itself and it starts going off, that means it's feeling some sort of energy coming near it, because it, unless you put it towards yourself, it goes off. Put it on your hand, it goes off. So so they have REM pods. They had SLS cameras, which uses Xbox technology, where it identifies human movement, and if you ever see on an Xbox, it does like the little stick figure, so it knows when you're moving to play the games. Well, it's the same technology basically, and it's called their SLS camera. So you look around and you'll see people in varying shades of color, because it's like a thermal imaging camera as well. And then you start seeing stick figures that aren't attached to our stick figures. Like I would have a stick figure because I'm a person. So when you start seeing stick figures that don't have bodies, then you're like, okay, it's locking on to something that's moving that we can't see with our physical eyes. A lot of their equipment, they are given as test equipment before they give it to shows like Ghost Adventures to use. So they work with Mr. Chappell and everybody else that creates the famous ghost hunting equipment. They have an ovilus. What the ovilus does is it has vowels, letters, words inside this machine, and this is all kind of theoretical equipment, but theoretically spirits are able to manipulate that device in order to form words. They also had a live listen, so it's got these headphones, it has a little recorder, and it's got enhanced audio, so you can hear like 50 times more of what's going on, so it can be kind of loud. And so you can hear things that we can't hear with normal hearing. It's enhanced, superhuman hearing, but it's all captured on audio recorder, so that you can play it back if you did think that you caught something. They did use just regular handheld recorders, to capture EVPs. They also had the SB7, where it's the a little speaker and a device that just scans radio frequencies forwards or backwards, FM or AM, whatever you choose. And it is said that spirit uses the white noise within that in order to speak, which we also heard stuff through that as well. They also use dowsing rods, so they use some old school equipment. They had temperature gauge, so it's a big pod that will show you what the temperature is as it fluctuates, and of course it was dropping because the night, as it got darker, it got colder. And we're in a cemetery where it's full of trees and grass, and so it's naturally a lot cooler around nature and foliage and things like that. And then they also had a night vision camera, and a broad spectrum camera, so it looks like a regular camera, but it has what looks like this huge flash with purple lights on it. And so when it takes a picture in a spectrum of colors, so that let's say you took a picture of this living room, it would be able to pick up, theoretically, things that we can't see with the human eye. So I'm sure they had lots of other equipment, but that's the equipment that I was privy to on this particular investigation. So the group that I went with, we decided to start off at the gazebo. And so the gazebo is known to have a lot of like child-like activity. And so we all sat down, you know, the amateur investigators and the two lead investigators that were there. One of the lead investigators had the SLS camera, was kind of pointing it on us. The other investigator brought out her dowsing rods, and she was using them. And there was a woman there who hadn't been there with us before, and she just kind of came in from the Philippines, and she thought it would be fun to go on this investigation. She's a new mom. She gave birth a couple of months ago, and as soon as she sat down, she kept saying, "Oh, my head, like I'm so dizzy, my head." And the investigator with the SLS camera is trying to show somebody else, like, because somebody said, "How does it work?" And she says, "Well, you point it over at somebody, and you see how, you know, you could see this person's like a skeletal figure, or it's like a stick figure. It's not really like a skeleton. It's like a stick figure. That's because she's a person. She's sitting there. And then you see this other figure that's dancing on her head. That means that's probably a ghost. Oh crap, there's something dancing on her head." And there was something just like do 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 do, and it looked like a little kid, you know, like kind of on her shoulder, on her head, and it was like kind of dancing around. And it was there for probably like the 10 or 15 minutes they were there. Like it just kind of stayed there, which was interesting. And this woman was just like, whoo, like she was getting really dizzy, and we were like trying to tell her to breathe and calm down and just, you know, ground yourself. But she was like having a hard time listening to us. She was like, oh, she just kept saying, "My head, my head, my head." We're like, okay, lady, like, calm down, like ground yourself. You know, you can tell it to not use your energy. And she's like, "Oh, but my head." We're like, tell it to not use your energy, you know. She was having a hard time listening. But anyway, so they were using the dowsing rods, and they were getting a lot of answers from this child. Said it was a child, and basically it really liked her energy. It liked that she was a new mom, and so it was like attaching itself to that mom energy. So it felt really comfortable. Didn't mean to hurt her in any way, just really liked her energy and was using that energy to talk. So finally backed off after the woman finally told it to back off. Then I got to use the dowsing rods, and I ended up picking up on the energies of two children. Either they were twins or they were really close in age, a little boy and a little girl. But as I was asking them questions, you know, I told them, "Oh, I'm a teacher. Did you like school?" And it was kind of like a, you know, because like it was like crossed for yes and like open for no. And they were kind of like, yeah. And I was like, "It's okay. You won't hurt my feelings." And asked if they liked reading, and no. The little boy said he did like recess though, and so did the little girl. It said that she really liked playing art, or drawing and art and things like that, and the little boy liked more like recess and playing and doing more physical activity. But I could feel like very strongly their energy through the dowsing rods. Like I could feel it in my wrists down to my elbows, and it just like felt like electricity, but it also felt like if there's somebody who had their hands on the end of the dowsing rods and was like pulling on them, which was like insane. I've never felt it that intensely before. And I do have my own dowsing rods. And then at some point, you know, because the answers were getting really clear, like their energy was really strong. They were feeding off the energy of all of us that were there. At some point, it felt like the dowsing rods were being pulled in two different directions. Like it literally felt like there was kids fighting over it, and it's because they were. Each one of them was trying to talk, and so they were fighting over the dowsing rods, and so we kind of had to scold them. We're like, "Hey, you know, if you guys fight over it, we can't understand what you're saying. So either you talk one at a time or we're going to leave." And so then they calmed down and they were able to give each other turns again. But then it was time to leave. As soon as we left, the man that was doing the live listen was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys need to hear this." So he placed this part back where it's right when the lady was like, "Oh, my head, my head." And the investigator that's sitting next to her is like, "Okay, lady, you got to breathe. You got to ground yourself." And just after she says that, you hear, it doesn't sound like a child's voice, it sounds like a man's voice, and it's like a loud whisper, and it was so clear, it sounded like there was actually somebody else there with us, because there was one man that was doing the live listen, but everybody else was women, and you hear this man's voice saying, "I do it all the time." And we were like, whoa, because we're like all listening. It was so clear, and like we literally just like did it. So you hear like, oh, my head, calm down, lady, you gotta ground. I do it all the time. And we're like, oh my God. So that was pretty cool. Usually we always pay our respects and we go over to Mr. Dearborn's grave. However, the sprinklers were going on, and, and it's always a thing at Dearborn Cemetery where you have to dodge the sprinklers at night. So, and sometimes those sprinklers get us. So we did not want to go over there where all the sprinklers were. So unfortunately, we were unable to go there. We did go over to the Veterans Memorial. We weren't really getting anything there. We kind of all felt drawn to this one tree. There's a lot of trees there, but there was like these 5 graves underneath this tree. And there were graves from people born in like the late 1800s, passing away in like the 1950s, 1960s. And it was like a husband, a wife, and I think it's like their kids. And I bent down to the wife's grave. It said mother up at the top and it said her name. And as I did that, this ball of light, I kid you not, with my own freaking eyes, came out of the ground into her headstone. It was like a whoop. Like literally that fast. It was whoop. And I was like, and I was kind of stunned because I really didn't know what happened. Everybody else was over here talking and they ceased to be looking at the grave still. And I was like, hey, you guys, California doesn't have lightning bugs, right? Like we don't have like little light bugs. And they're like, no. And I was like, yeah, I haven't seen those since I was in Ohio. Okay, well, if that wasn't a light bug, that was an orb. There was like literally a ball of light come out of the ground and into the headstone. So that was crazy that I saw something with my eyes, because I have been seeing more with my eyes, but mostly if I'm gonna see stuff, it's gonna be with my third eye. So it was like, wow, like I literally just saw a blue light with my eyes. I was like, wow. And then we weren't really getting any more, so our time was up and we had to go wait for the other group to meet us up so that we can now switch. So we go then with 2 different investigators, and the group that was with the 2 other investigators then go with our 2 investigators so they can, use different equipment, get a different experience, and go to different areas of the cemetery. And so while we're waiting, I happen to turn around and look at the road behind me that leads to like the back part of the cemetery. And so there's just kind of like a tree and like a fence. And so in the back part of the cemetery, I thought I saw one of our blue flashlights that we have, like kind of pointed towards the ground. And I saw this blue light just kind of move kind of quickly along the ground, along all the graves. And then it stopped. It probably went for like 20, 30 yards maybe. And it was like, and then it stopped. And so I was like, oh, hey, you guys, because everybody's just like, everybody's just talking and they have their backs to where I was looking. And I was like, hey, you guys, like, is one of us over there? They're like, where? And I was like over at the back of the cemetery. Oh no, you guys aren't going to go over there until you're with like the other group. But we saw the other group coming towards us. So one of the ladies was like, oh, I want to go investigate. So we ran over there. And there was nobody over there, and we are the only ones that are allowed to be locked down in the cemetery. I mean, there's a groundskeeper, but the groundskeeper wasn't there. The groundskeeper is like on a completely different side of the cemetery. Yeah, I mean, we looked around. There's not really many places people could hide there. And there was nobody. There was nobody with flashlight, and I couldn't believe that I had seen, I guess, another something. I don't really know what that something was. I can't say for sure that it was a ghost, but there was no people around. So I could just say that it was, we say it's paranormal because it's, or maybe it was abnormal. I don't know. It's something out of the ordinary. So yeah, so then there's that blue light. There's another, there was a few people that are considered sensitives in the group. And so one lady was over there and she said that she was picking up on an energy, one energy that wanted us to go there, another energy that didn't want us to go there. It was like the energies were fighting. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And then we switched and we went with, you know, the other group, and they said that they wanted to continue a conversation that they were having with the last group. So we went up to a group of graves where they have basically made like friends with a few of the ghosts there because they go there quite often. So there are some ghosts that like to talk all the time, that are like their friend ghosts. And then there was like this, so they were trying to continue this conversation with this one spirit, a young spirit. He died at age 22 back in 2007 from a car accident. Unfortunate. His picture is on his grave, you know, nice looking kid. There's like this spirit of a preacher, and they weren't really getting a straight answer of what religion this person was. But this person, when we were using the SB7, where it's like scanning the radio frequencies, we kept hearing like a lot of cursing and calling out of a witch. And I realized that I was like wearing my pentagram that day, and I was like, it kept saying like pendant, and I was like, are they talking about me? You know, and then there was and they were saying like a lot of really rude, nasty things about the women in the group. One of the lead investigators is medium, and so he's like talking to this entity, and you know, it's saying basically what we're doing is witchcraft and the devil's work, you know, trying to talk to the dead. And the investigator then brings up the section in the Bible about Solomon, who does talk to spirits, and says that what we're doing is something that you would find in the Bible and is not at all demonic. That made the ghost very angry and said like basically like, you don't know the Bible, blah blah blah, and just basically wanted to argue and continue on with we're doing the devil's work, and just like would not listen to us giving our like, okay, hello, Mr. Ghost, we know the Bible too, and like you are picking and choosing what to believe from the Bible. And so like this ghost just did not want to listen, so we were ignoring it. While they're having their conversation, I keep feeling really drawn to the young man's grave that we originally went there to go talk to. It felt like a breeze had started up, but I don't see trees moving. I didn't see anybody else's hair moving, and it was just my hair over here. Like I had my hair up like I do now, but like I had a little piece of my hair, it was like moving right here, and then I felt like somebody's hand like doing this on my cheek, and I was like, and then like brushing back my hair, and I was like, and I just kind of like kept holding my cheek, and I was like, hey you guys, are we gonna talk to this kid or what? Because I think he's touching my cheek and he's touching my hair. And they were like, oh yeah, of course, oh my god, we so didn't mean to ignore him. Yeah, we needed to continue our conversation. And so they tried talking to him using the SB7, although they said that's not his preferred method. In the past, he's always loved using the dowsing rods. So they asked him to say his name, and you could clearly hear that name in the SB7. Like there was like one really skeptical lady that was with us, and she was like, whoa, and she didn't really know what to make of all this. She said it was all very interesting. She doesn't know if that actually makes her believe in ghosts, but she found this stuff interesting, you know, unexplainable for right now. You know, other than that preacher saying a bunch of nasty things, which she also thought was interesting through the SB7, we just decided that it was just becoming full of negative energy, so we shut it off, and we decided to use the dowsing rods. The lead investigator, who's a medium, said that there was a man who seemed like he died from some sort of like emphysema or something like that. And so he asked the young man, hey, should we go talk to that guy? He looks like he needs help. And right away the dowsing rods like opened way up. They were like, no, you do not talk to that guy. And he's like, okay, we're not talking. And so like, the other investigator, he's holding the dowsing rods, like you're watching him hold them. And like dowsing rods, they have like this little cylinder around the wire, so that like if you move your hands around, you can't really move the rods around. I mean, unless like your thumbs or a piece of your skin is on the rods, you can't really move them. And so he's holding the rods, and it says, can you point to stand? It's like, whoosh, like literally just like that, and then they just like stayed there. It's like, can you point to I forgot the man's name with the live listen, and it's like whoo, and it's like whoa, and it says, can you point him straight? It's like whoo, and they just like stayed straight. They weren't like whoo, they were just like boom. And it was like wow, that's so cool. And then the investigator was like, well, since this young man seems to like you, he's brushing your face and your hair, why don't you ask him a question? But I didn't really know what to ask. And so one of the other gentlemen starts asking questions. And so then I feel like, you know, as I was like trying to tap into this young man's energy, like I feel like I could see him with a dog and his mom and dad, and then I feel like he had a sibling, but I wasn't quite sure if it was a brother or sister. I see his home, I see his room, which is like actually kind of neat for a boy. It's not really that messy. And so I asked, like, did you have a dog? And it was like a whoosh, you know, like a resounding yes. And was like, and so then I was like, you know, I see that you kind of had a nice room, you know, for a young man. And I was like, dude, were you one of those guys that used to pop your collar? And then it's like, starts like moving towards, I was like, with your polo shirts, bro. And it was like, whoo, whoo. I was like, dude, you were that guy. Okay, that is so not in style anymore. Please, I hope you're not popping the collar in the afterlife. Like, so then I start having this like really fun conversation with this spirit, and the answers were just so clear. And the other investigators, I think, wanted to move on, but it's just like I was having such a fun time talking to this one spirit, and I felt really connected to him. And so I was, you know, asking things like, you know, because they felt like he played football. I wasn't quite sure if he played football. The Filipino lady that was next to me felt like he was the kicker on the team. He said he was the kicker, and then I was like, oh wait, did you like play soccer? And it was like, yes. And then you know, they were saying, oh, that this is Tara. They said, do you like Tara? And it was like a big yes. And then I was like, oh, Mr. Casanova. And I was like, and I said, so sorry, but I have a boyfriend. And then it was like, whew, you know, it went back to, and then I said, well, I guess we could be friends. And it was like a big, like, no, like, I don't want to be friends. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then they said, did you have a girlfriend? It was like, yes. And I was like, playa, you are a playa ghost. You have a girlfriend and you are trying to hit on me? Like, what? And so then I asked, I said, did your girlfriend have blonde hair? Yes. Does the letter of her first name start with the same letter as my first name? And was like, yes. And so I asked if it was Tracy or something. It was like, no. One of the ladies said, wait, is it like Teresa? And it was like, yes. Okay, so her name's Teresa, blonde hair. Said that she was kind of like a cheerleader type. I'm not sure if she was actually a cheerleader, but like cheerleader type, probably meaning like bubbly, peppy personality. And then, you know, learned a few more things. The investigator who is medium, Stan, said that this spirit likes to hang out with another spirit on the other side of the cemetery who's also a young man, roughly the same age as him, played football, and they went to rival high schools. So it's kind of interesting that those two spirits hang out together. Well, I mean, you know, and they said they knew of each other, but they weren't like homies or anything. And so, yeah, it was interesting. And they said, well, you know, we got to go. And on the Ovilus, which the Filipino lady had been holding, all of a sudden the word truck pops up. And they're like, truck? And I realized, I said, oh, I drive a truck. And I was the only person in the whole group that drives a truck. And I was like, okay, well, you can't come home with me. I have a boyfriend at home and I don't need a ghost boyfriend, you know? And so, but just a very friendly, kind energy. It felt like when those other energies were getting a little hostile, like it felt like there was like a warm hug around all of us. Like he was like putting his arms around all of us, like kind of trying to comfort or protect us, which I thought was interesting. And none of the other energies there were like evil. Just like sometimes some people are just like, if they're a-holes in their life, like when they were alive, they're gonna be a-holes when they're dead. Like, you know, so like some people are just jerks. And so that's kind of like a few spirits that we ran into, but everybody else was rather pleasant. And yeah, I mean, we tried using the recorder to pick up spirits, but there was so much background noise it was hard to hear if there was any other like spirits in the recorder. Like there's like you know, the sound of cars going by. You could hear the other investigators talking in the background, which sounds like whispers on the recorder, but it's debunked as, you know, being the other investigators. So yeah, we didn't get anything on there, but yeah, we got a few pieces of evidence, you know, from the whisper at the beginning, the stuff we saw on the SLS, you know, the you know, the things that we were getting on the Ovilus, the REM pod never went off. The, you know, things we were getting with, especially with the dowsing rods, which was pretty cool. And then with, you know, at the end when they were like, all right, bye, you know, we'll come back later, you know, another investigation, you know, to the young man, they just put away one of the dowsing rods and just held one. They said, can you swing it all the way around 360 for us? And all of a sudden it went, it like swung twice with the guy's hand like just still, and that was like pretty cool. And then oh, there was one other thing. When we were at the gazebo, we were asking the little boy that was feeding off the energy of the new mom, because the temperature was like, it was like 65.9 degrees or something like that. And we said, can you make it say 666? You know, just to make it easy, just like make all the numbers line up. Not that like to be demonic or anything, just, and so then it went 66.9, 0.7, 0.6, and then it stayed solid 66.6. And so we're like, okay, good. And it stayed like that for a while, and then, you know, and then it popped up to the temperature that it was, you know, before it you know, decided to be at 66.6. So that was interesting, you know. When we went back to our vehicles, we actually left 20 minutes early. We were gonna leave at 11 o'clock, but a lot of people were very drained with their energy because the spirits were very talkative and it was very clear what they were saying, but it took a lot of energy out of a lot of people, so they were just deciding to go home. While they were talking and before we, you know, cleansed our energy and basically told what, you know, whatever resides at the cemetery has to stay at the cemetery, can't come home with us, basically. I felt like somebody pinched my calf, my right calf, and it was interesting. And I was like, and when I felt that, the woman next to me, the Filipino lady, like jumped. She was like, whoa, somebody just pinched my butt. Oh, she was like, somebody just pinched my back. Ooh, somebody keeps poking me. And I was like, you could tell these people to go away, you know? You don't have to endure like touchy-feely ghosts. And so we mentioned this, and one of the investigators said, oh, that must be so-and-so. I forgot what ghost name they said. They said it's basically, it's kind of like a perverted old man that kind of stays there, and he likes to pinch the butts and torment young ladies. So I thought that was interesting. I told it to bugger off, and it left me alone. And so yeah, that was my story. That's you know, all the interesting things I got to experience on my ghost hunting trip with the San Diego Paranormal Eye. So again, if you're in the San Diego area, definitely check out their Facebook group, check out their website, you know, check up the meetups page if you are interested in meeting up with them. You know, that'd be cool. Like maybe we could all go on an investigation together. I was thinking about filming, you know, and just making like a vlog here for you guys, but I figured story would be better. Plus, you guys would mostly just see darkness on my camera. I mean, you'd just be like looking at devices, and I think that would be kind of boring. So, yeah, because like, you know, my cell phone doesn't really have night vision, get that cool like night vision-y stuff, you know, when you watch those TV shows. So I figured I would just retell the story here. So anyway, that's it. That's my story. If you guys have some interesting stories, place that in the comment section down below. If you have any other questions or comments about this story, place that in the comment section down below. And if you dug this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to click subscribe, and don't forget to click that ding 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 notification bell for more videos just like this. And if you do want me to make more videos like this, let me know in the comment section below. I'll do more story time, paranormal story time with you guys. I mean, living in this house, I have a lot of stories, like never-ending stories. Plus I grew up in a haunted house. So I have like 37 years worth of stories for you guys. That's a lot. Yeah, and if you guys want to catch a reading with me, head over to www.kittenswaitsandtarot.com. I have tons of different types of readings. I also have mediumship readings if you are interested. And that's it for me, spiritual homies. I will catch you later. Peace, love, and chicken grease. Peace out!